The air in the ballroom hangs thick with champagne bubbles and the low hum of forced laughter. Crystal chandeliers drip light onto a polished floor where couples orbit awkwardly. My sister, Sarah, is the sun tonight, radiating in white lace, her smile a little too wide, her eyes scanning the room for important faces. She spots me near the edge, holding a glass I haven't touched. A predatory gleam enters her gaze. She detaches herself from her fiancé, Mark, gliding over with the practiced ease of someone who owns the space. The air around her seems to vibrate with triumph. She leans in, her voice low, sweet, and utterly poisonous, just for my ears. "Eleanor," she purrs, her smile never faltering. "Still alone? It's a big world out there. At least I found someone who loves me enough to put a ring on it." The words hit like tiny, poison darts. My chest tightens. The music, the chatter, everything blurs around the sharp point of her cruelty. I force a smile that feels like cracked glass. I open my mouth, but no sound comes. She laughs, a light, airy sound that carries just enough to make the few people nearby glance over. She doesn't wait for a reply. She turns, a perfect picture of bridal bliss, and drifts back towards her fiancé, leaving me standing there, the echo of her words ringing in my ears, a public, smiling declaration of my perceived failure. The carefully constructed composure I'd worn like ill-fitting armor begins to crumble. The floor feels unsteady beneath my feet. Alone. The word lodges itself in my throat. Where are you watching from, and what time is it? Let me know in the comments. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It truly helps me more than you know. Alone. It's not just a description of my current physical state in this cavernous, opulent room. It's the brand Sarah has been trying to press into my skin since we were kids. The less than, the left behind, the one who wouldn't quite measure up. It started small, invisible nips and jabs in the privacy of our shared bedroom. Stolen diaries, whispered secrets twisted into rumors, alliances with friends that always excluded me. Little cuts designed to bleed confidence slowly. As we grew, the battlefield shifted, expanded. School, friends, relationships, careers. Everything was a competition I didn't know I was entered into until I was already losing. She had the effortless charm, the kind that drew people in without even trying. I had an intensity, maybe, a quiet observation that people often mistook for shyness or standoffishness. While Sarah floated through life, gathering admirers and opportunities like pollen, I felt like I was constantly swimming upstream, fighting against an invisible current. Our parents, oblivious or perhaps willfully blind, encouraged her sunshine while gently nudging me towards practicality, stability. "Sarah is so good with people," my mother would say. "Eleanor is more." Internal, it wasn't meant as criticism, not overtly, but it reinforced the narrative. Sarah belonged in the light. I belonged in the shadows. I remember when I got my first real job offer, fresh out of university. It wasn't glamorous, not like the internship Sarah had waltzed into, but it felt like mine. I was proud. I called her, bubbling with excitement. Her response? "Oh, that's nice, I guess. My boss just offered me a corner office and stock options today. This little boutique firm you're going to. Do they even have windows?" The air went out of my balloon so fast it felt like a physical blow. Nice, I guess. It became the internal soundtrack to every one of my small victories. Relationships were the worst battleground. Sarah moved through them with dazzling speed, each boyfriend seemingly more impressive than the last. She'd parade them in front of me, recounting tales of lavish dates and grand gestures, always managing to slip in a comment about my lack of romance, my independent nature framed not as strength, but as a lonely, undesirable eccentricity. When I did date, quietly, tentatively, she would find a way to undermine it. A well-timed question about their job, their car, their family background, designed to expose any perceived flaw, any deviation from her own polished, aspirational standards. She'd analyze my choices with feigned concern, dissecting my partners until I started seeing them through her critical, dismissive eyes. It was a subtle form of sabotage, eroding my confidence in my own judgment, making me question if I was even capable of attracting someone truly worthwhile. Her own relationships, while seemingly successful from the outside, often felt transactional. She chose partners who fit a certain image, who could elevate her social standing, who offered security and opportunity. Love, the messy, complicated, vulnerable kind, seemed secondary, almost an afterthought. And she projected that cynicism onto me, assuming my lack of a conventional, highly visible relationship meant I was simply incapable of inspiring love. "You're too much in your head, Eleanor," she'd say, like it was a terminal illness. "Men don't want to solve puzzles. They want pretty pictures." Then there was Mark. Sarah met him a year ago. He was everything she'd been building towards. Successful, ambitious, connected. He moved in circles she yearned to belong to. Their engagement was swift, announced with a flurry of perfect photos and breathless social media posts. This party tonight wasn't just a celebration. It was a carefully curated display of her ultimate triumph. The venue, the guest list, the designer dress, it all screamed, "I won." And my presence here felt less like a sisterly invitation and more like a necessary prop, someone to stand in the background and highlight her brilliance by contrast. The humiliation from her comments settles deeper now, a cold, heavy stone in my gut. I want to disappear, to melt into the ornate wallpaper, to walk out and never look back. But leaving now would be another loss, another point scored against me. It would confirm her narrative, the one where I retreat when things get difficult, where I can't handle the pressure. And something inside me rebels against that. Not fiercely, not yet. More like a tired, bruised animal pushing back in its cage. I survey the room again, trying to find a friendly face, any face that doesn't seem to be looking at me with pity or judgment. Most people here are Sarah and Mark's world, their friends, their colleagues, Mark's family. I know a few distant cousins, a couple of college acquaintances Sarah somehow maintains ties with, but no one I feel I can truly talk to. I'm an outsider, acutely aware of it. I remember standing in my small apartment getting ready tonight. I'd tried on 3 different dresses, none of them feeling quite right. Too formal, too casual, too me. I'd wanted to look elegant, composed, to project an air of quiet contentment that defied Sarah's expectations. But looking in the mirror, all I saw was the reflection of years of subtle attacks, the way her words had chipped away at my self-worth. It was hard to feel elegant when you felt fundamentally flawed. I settled on a simple black dress, classic but unassuming. Safe. A dress that wouldn't draw attention, good or bad. Now I regret it. I should have worn something bolder, something that screamed, "I exist, and I am not diminished by you." The party drones on. I make small talk, polite, detached. Each conversation feels like navigating a minefield. How do you know Sarah? Are you enjoying the party? So, what do you do? The last question is the hardest. My work is unconventional, meaningful to me, but not easily explained in cocktail party soundbites, especially not to people impressed by titles and corner offices. Sarah, predictably, has already given her version of my life story to anyone who would listen, likely painting a picture of quiet stagnation. I see her across the room, laughing with a group of Mark's associates. She catches my eye and her smile tightens, just slightly, a silent reminder of her earlier jab. It's a look I know well. Superiority mixed with a hint of malice. It fuels a slow burn in my chest. This isn't just about a comment tonight. It's about a lifetime of feeling less than, of being the target of her relentless, smiling ambition. I check my phone. No new messages. My hand trembles slightly as I put it back in my clutch. He should be here soon. The thought sends a jolt of nervous energy through me. Part of me is terrified. What if he doesn't come? What if he comes and it's awkward? What if, even with him here, Sarah still finds a way to twist it, to diminish me? The other part, the bruised animal part, feels a flicker of hope, a desperate clinging to the possibility that tonight won't end with me retreating into the shadows, defeated once again. I find myself gravitating towards a large window, overlooking the city lights. The view is stunning, a glittering expanse of possibility and anonymity. Out here, away from the suffocating atmosphere of the ballroom, I can breathe a little. I press my forehead against the cool glass. How did we get here? How did the bond between sisters twist into this brittle, toxic thing? There were moments, weren't there? Moments of shared secrets, of laughter, of childhood solidarity against the world. They feel distant now, like faint echoes from another lifetime. I remember her first heartbreak, the one where she cried into my pillow all night. I held her, smoothed her hair, whispered reassurances. I meant it. I loved her then. Or maybe I just loved the idea of a sister, of someone who was supposed to be on my side, unconditionally. Somewhere along the way, that fundamental understanding fractured. The competition, perhaps inherent in sibling dynamics, mutated into something ugly, consuming. It wasn't healthy rivalry. It was a relentless need to dominate, to prove her own worth by highlighting my perceived lack of it. The weight of it all presses down on me. The years of feeling inadequate, the constant need to brace myself for the next jab, the quiet loneliness that settled in because it felt safer than risking vulnerability. Her comment tonight wasn't just cruel. It felt like the culmination of a lifetime of being told, in myriad ways, that I was not enough. Not pretty enough, not popular enough, not successful enough, and most painfully, not lovable enough. A waiter offers me a glass of champagne. I take it, forcing myself to appear normal. I take a small sip. It tastes like victory and regret, a strange, unsettling combination. The sweetness is cloying, the bubbles sharp on my tongue. I watch Sarah now, holding court. She's animated, gesturing gracefully, her voice carrying just slightly above the din. She's telling a story, and from the appreciative nods and laughter, she's clearly charming her audience. This is her element. She thrives on admiration, on being the center of attention. And she hates it when anyone else steals even a sliver of that spotlight. That's why her comment about being alone was so potent. It was designed to isolate me, to mark me as separate and undesirable in this very public arena where she is queen. The desire to leave intensifies. Every fiber of my being screams for escape. My feet ache in my heels, my head pounds with the effort of maintaining composure. But the image of Sarah's smug face, the memory of her dismissive laugh, anchors me to the spot. No, not tonight. Not again. I won't give her the satisfaction of seeing me run. I lean back against the cool stone of the wall, trying to blend into the background. My gaze drifts towards the entrance. People are still arriving, fashionably late. Each time the doors swing open, a fresh gust of cold night air sweeps in, carrying the sounds of the city. I scan the faces, a knot of anticipation tightening in my stomach. There he is. My breath catches. He's walking through the doors, scanning the room, his expression calm, composed. He moves with a quiet confidence that's entirely his own, not something borrowed or performed for an audience. He hasn't seen me yet. He's taller than most people here, his dark suit impeccable, not flashy, just powerful. He isn't smiling broadly. His face holds a serious elegance that makes him stand out instantly in the sea of glittering superficiality. Conversations around the entrance area seem to pause, people subtly turning their heads to see who has just arrived. He has that effect. My heart pounds against my ribs, a frantic drum against the silence that has fallen inside me. He's here. The impossible, wonderful truth of him is walking into this room, into Sarah's perfectly constructed world. My world tilts on its axis. Sarah, across the room, is still talking, still captivating her audience. She hasn't seen him. Not yet. Mark, her fiancé, stands beside her, nodding along, his arm around her waist, looking pleased with himself and the evening. He's a sharp, ambitious man, always looking for the next angle, the next connection. He's the kind of man who measures success in digits and influence. He's probably working the room even as he listens to Sarah's story, mentally tallying the potential gains from every handshake, every introduction. David. His name whispers itself in my mind. David. The man who saw me, truly saw me, when I felt invisible. The man who built an empire with quiet determination and strategic brilliance, far from the flashy world Sarah craves. The man who held my hand and told me he loved my mind, my quiet strength, my internal world that Sarah mocked.
He didn't try to change me.
He celebrated the parts of me I thought were flaws. He spots me. Across the crowded room, his eyes find mine. A slow, genuine smile spreads across his face, a smile that reaches his eyes and makes the whole world feel warm and right. He starts walking towards me, a direct, unwavering path through the milling guests. He doesn't stop to chat, doesn't get waylaid by well-wishers or curious onlookers. His focus is solely on me. People are definitely watching now. It's impossible not to notice him. His presence commands attention without demanding it. Whispers start to ripple through the crowd near the entrance, heads turning, questions being exchanged in hushed tones. Who is that? Do you know him? Sarah pauses in her story, perhaps sensing the shift in the room's energy. She follows the direction of everyone's gaze, towards the entrance, towards the man walking purposefully across the floor. Her smile falters. Confusion flickers across her face. It's replaced by a look of intense scrutiny. She's trying to place him, to categorize him. He's clearly important, but he doesn't fit neatly into the usual boxes of their social circle. He's not one of Mark's business rivals or potential investors she's been studying photos of.
He's
someone else. Someone unexpected.
He reaches me.
He doesn't say a word at first. He just reaches out and takes my hand, his fingers closing around mine, a solid, grounding warmth. He looks down at me, his expression one of pure, uncomplicated affection. "Eleanor," he says, his voice low, "for my ears only. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was brutal." It's such a simple sentence, utterly mundane, but in this context, at this moment, it's everything. It acknowledges our reality, our connection, in this space where I was just declared alone. Sarah is watching. I can feel her eyes on us, sharp and disbelieving. Mark is watching too, his brow furrowed. Other people in their group have fallen silent, their attention now fixed on this unexpected arrival. David turns slightly, acknowledging the room, but his hand remains clasped around mine, a silent declaration. Sarah starts to move towards us, her earlier confident glide replaced by a more uncertain, hesitant motion. She's trying to regain control of the narrative, to understand this disruption to her perfect evening. "Eleanor," she says, her voice pitched higher than before.
Who?
David looks at her, a polite, neutral expression on his face. He offers a small, formal nod to Mark. "Good evening," he says, his voice clear and calm, carrying slightly.
I'm David Chen.
The name hangs in the air. David Chen. The reaction is instantaneous and visceral. Not from Sarah, not yet, but from Mark. Mark's eyes widen. His jaw goes slack. The color drains from his face. He stumbles back half a step, bumping into a waiter carrying a tray of glasses. There's a small crash as a few glasses fall and break, but no one pays attention. All eyes are on Mark, and then, following his horrified gaze on David. Whispers ripple through the crowd again, but this time they are filled with awe and disbelief. David Chen. The David Chen? What is he doing here? Sarah, still focused on me, on David holding my hand, doesn't seem to grasp the significance of the name yet. She's still processing the fact that I arrived alone, but am now standing here, hand in hand, with this undeniably powerful man. She's probably scrambling to figure out who he is in her world, which company he runs, what his net worth is, how she can leverage this. Mark, however, knows exactly who David Chen is. David Chen is the quiet, reclusive billionaire investor Mark has been desperately trying to get a meeting with for 6 months. The man whose funding could make or break Mark's entire venture. The man whose reputation for being utterly ruthless with people he deems unprofessional or untrustworthy is legendary. Mark's face is a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. He looks like he's seen a ghost. David, sensing the shift, turns slightly more towards Mark, his expression still polite, but now with a subtle, almost imperceptible hardening around the eyes. He understands the game Mark is playing, has seen it 1,000 times. Sarah reaches us. She forces a smile, trying to recover her composure. David Chen? It's a pleasure. I'm Sarah, Eleanor's sister. And this is my fiancé, Mark. She extends a hand to David, attempting a smooth, social introduction. David ignores her outstretched hand. His gaze is steady on Mark. Mark, he says, his voice quiet, but carrying absolute authority. We were scheduled to meet next week, weren't we? To discuss your proposal. Mark swallows hard. Why yes, Mr. Chen. We were. His voice is reedy, thin. The confident swagger is completely gone. David turns back to me, his expression softening instantly. He squeezes my hand gently. Eleanor tells me you two are getting married, he says to Mark, his tone neutral, but with a subtle emphasis on Eleanor tells me, implying our closeness. Mark can only nod, speechless. His eyes dart between me, David, and Sarah. The realization is dawning on him, the catastrophic implications of this moment. He understands, perhaps even better than Sarah does, the magnitude of the plot twist unfolding. The woman he is marrying, who just publicly humiliated her sister, is oblivious to the fact that the man holding her sister's hand is the gatekeeper to his financial future. And my sister's treatment of me, right here, right now, is being witnessed by that man. Sarah is still trying to catch up, still trying to network. Yes, we are, she chirps, trying to inject warmth and charm into the moment. It's such a lovely evening. I was just telling Eleanor how important it is to find someone who... She stops abruptly. Her eyes flick back to David, then to Mark's ashen face, then back to David again. She sees the way Mark is looking at David, not with social politeness, but with sheer, naked desperation. She sees the subtle shift in David's posture, the way his gaze holds Mark's, quiet and assessing. She hears the whispers around them, the name, David Chen, repeated with reverence and shock. It clicks. The man holding my hand, the man she just dismissed as being non-existent in my alone life, is the David Chen. The investor. The kingmaker Mark has been bowing and scraping to impress for months. The blood drains from Sarah's face. Her carefully constructed smile shatters. Her eyes, moments ago sparkling with triumphant malice, widen in horror. She looks at me, truly looks at me, for the first time all night, not as a backdrop for her own success, but as the woman holding the hand of the man who could destroy everything she's worked for. The woman she just publicly ridiculed for being alone. The irony, the sheer, brutal, delicious irony of it, hangs heavy in the air. She mocked my supposed solitude, my lack of a partner, moments before the very man she and her fiancé desperately need validation from arrived, not as a potential business contact, but as my fiancé. Not just a ring, but this man. This level of success, this level of connection, walking in on my arm. It dwarfs everything she has ever achieved or will achieve with Mark. The shock is too much. The cognitive dissonance, the abrupt, violent collision of her reality with the truth of my life, is more than her meticulously controlled facade can bear. Her face contorts, a mixture of disbelief, panic, and pure, incandescent rage directed inwardly. Her hand flies to her chest. A choked gasp escapes her lips. She stumbles back, her movements jerky, uncontrolled, completely devoid of her usual grace. Her eyes roll back slightly. And then, with a soft rustle of white lace, she collapses. Not dramatically, not like in a movie, but a sudden, boneless crumpling to the polished floor. She hits the ground with a soft thud, a heap of tulle and shattered ambition at David's feet. A stunned silence falls over the immediate vicinity.
People gasp.
Mark cries out her name, rushing forward to kneel beside her, fumbling with her limp hand. The perfectly curated engagement party has just exploded into chaos. I stand there, David's hand still warm in mine, watching Sarah lie on the floor. The initial shock of her collapse is quickly overtaken by a wave of something else. It's not pity. Not exactly. It's a cold, Deep satisfaction, a sense of absolute vindication that settles into my bones. For all the years, all the slights, all the moments she made me feel small and inadequate, this is the culmination. She wanted to highlight my perceived failure. Instead, her own carefully constructed world has imploded before her eyes, triggered by the very person she used to mock me. Mark is frantically trying to revive her, calling her name. Guests start to crowd around, murmuring, concerned. David remains standing beside me, a silent, solid presence. He hasn't let go of my hand. He looks down at Sarah, his expression unreadable, perhaps a flicker of something akin to distaste, but no surprise. He knows Sarah's type. He's seen people crumble like this before when their carefully built empires of status and perception collapse. Someone calls for a doctor. Another guest rushes off to get water. The beautiful, controlled atmosphere of the party has been irrevocably shattered, replaced by panicked energy and confused whispers. Everyone is looking at Sarah, at Mark, and then back at me and David, trying to piece together what just happened. The air is thick with speculation, with dawning realization. They're connecting the dots: Sarah's comment, my arrival, David's identity, Mark's reaction, Sarah's collapse. The story is writing itself in their minds. I look down at Sarah, a white, crumpled heap on the floor. She looks small now, fragile, stripped of her usual power and confidence. It's a strange thing to see, the person who has always seemed invincible brought down so completely, not by a dramatic external force, but by the weight of her own hubris colliding with reality. Paramedics arrive quickly, weaving through the crowd. They check Sarah's pulse, lift her head gently. Mark hovers anxiously, explaining to them what happened, his voice still shaky. They decide to take her to the hospital, just as a precaution. As they lift her onto a stretcher, her eyes flutter open briefly. They find mine. For a split second, I see a raw, naked emotion there. Not just fear or shock, but a profound, burning hatred. The mask is completely gone. She knows exactly what happened, exactly why she collapsed. And she blames me. Mark gets into the ambulance with her. The crowd starts to disperse from the immediate area, buzzing with gossip. The party, technically, is still going on, but the energy has shifted irrevocably. It feels tainted, haunted by the scene that just unfolded. David leads me quietly away from the center of the commotion, towards a quieter corner of the room, near the window where I stood earlier. He doesn't ask if I'm okay. He knows. He just holds my hand, a silent acknowledgement of the storm we just weathered together. We stand there for a few moments, side by side, watching the remnants of the party continue around us. It feels surreal, like we are observers in someone else's bizarre play. My emotions are a tangled mess: relief, satisfaction, a lingering ache for the sister I never truly had, and a profound gratitude for the man standing beside me. He turns to me, his expression gentle. "Are you all right?" he asks again, this time his voice soft with genuine concern. I nod, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. "Yes, I manage finally. I am. Because you're here." He smiles, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reaches his eyes. "I wouldn't be anywhere else," he says. He pulls me gently into a hug, wrapping his arms around me. I lean into him, letting the tension drain from my body. For the first time tonight, I feel safe, truly seen, and undeniably loved. In his arms, the noise of the party fades, the stares of the guests disappear, and Sarah's cruel words lose their power. Later, after most of the guests have left, after the shock has begun to subside, David and I sit in a quiet lounge area of the hotel, the party still faintly audible in the distance. He orders us drinks, not champagne. Something quiet and grounding. "You know," he says, swirling the ice in his glass, "I had a feeling something like this might happen." I look at him surprised. "You did?" He nods. "Mark mentioned his fiancé has a sister who works in a different field. He made it sound like you were struggling, maybe even a bit unstable." He was painting a picture of their family as being very conventional, Very successful, with only one slight anomaly. My blood runs cold. Sarah wasn't just mocking me to my face. She was actively poisoning the well, spreading a narrative of my inadequacy to important people in her life, potentially even to David himself before she knew who he was. It's a level of calculated malice that chills me to the bone. He was trying to distance himself and presumably Sarah from you. David continues, his voice calm, but with an edge of coldness, to present a unified front of impeccable success and normalcy. He likely didn't want any complications, especially with the meeting coming up. He didn't know we were together? I ask, stating the obvious.
No.
We've been careful to keep our relationship private, which I appreciate. My life is public enough as it is. But Sarah knew I was looking at Mark's proposal. She knew how much that funding meant to them. I imagine Mark was under immense pressure to present a perfect image. He pauses, a slight frown creasing his brow. What surprises me is that Mark didn't connect the dots when I mentioned I was seeing someone. Or maybe he did, and just didn't believe it could be you. The dry humor of it surfaces, despite the seriousness. Of course, they wouldn't have imagined me with David Chen. I was just Eleanor, the quiet sister, the anomaly. They were so focused on their own ambition, their own narrative of success, they were blind to the reality of my life. She called me. Alone, I say, the words feeling distant now, stripped of their power. Said at least she found someone who loves her. David reaches across the small table and takes my hand again. His touch is firm, reassuring. She was wrong, Eleanor, he says, his eyes holding mine. Utterly, completely wrong. You are the most loved person I know. Tears well up in my eyes, not of sadness, but of a complex, overwhelming mix of relief, gratitude, and the release of years of pent-up pain. He sees me. He loves me. And his presence tonight, his quiet support, has not only validated me in the most public way possible, but has also exposed the rot at the core of Sarah's ambition. We talk for a long time about Sarah, about Mark, about the future. David is pragmatic about the business side. Mark's proposal had potential, he says. But his judgment, his character, that's a different matter. And someone who would allow his fiancée to treat her own sister like that, especially in front of potential investors, he shakes his head slowly. The implication is clear. The deal, Mark's dream, is likely dead. Not just because of Sarah's collapse, but because of the window it offered into their character, their values. And that is the true twist, the winning bigger. It's not just my personal validation, it's the ripple effect. Sarah's attempt to publicly diminish me, powered by her own perceived success through Mark, has directly contributed to the potential downfall of that very success. Her weapon of choice, public humiliation, has detonated in her own face, leaving not just personal embarrassment, but professional catastrophe for her and Mark. The sisterly bond, already fragile, feels irrevocably broken. There's no coming back from this. She won't forgive me for this, for existing, for being loved by him, for being the catalyst for her public humiliation and Mark's professional ruin. And honestly, I don't know if I can forgive her for the lifetime of calculated cruelty that led to this moment. The tragedy is that it didn't have to be this way. We could have been allies, friends. But she chose competition, weaponized insecurity, and ultimately, self-destruction. The aftermath isn't a clean, happy ending. There will be fallout, awkward family gatherings, questions, perhaps even attempts at blame or manipulation from Sarah and Mark. But for the first time, I don't feel afraid. I have David. I have my own quiet strength, forged in the fires of Sarah's constant criticism. I have the knowledge that my worth is not determined by anyone else's approval, least of all hers. Standing up, David helps me with my coat. The ballroom is mostly empty now, a silent, echoing reminder of the night's drama. We walk out into the cool night air, leaving the remnants of Sarah's broken party behind. The city lights stretch out before us, vast and indifferent to the small human dramas played out beneath them. I take a deep breath. The air is crisp, clean. It feels like a new beginning. The sting of Sarah's words is still a faint echo, but it's drowned out by the quiet strength of David's hand in mine, The unspoken promise of a future built on mutual respect and genuine love, far away from the hollow triumphs of gilded ballrooms. I am not alone. I never was. If this story hit close to home, if you've ever felt unseen or undermined, I'd love to hear your version. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. Thanks for being here. Subscribing helps bring more of these stories to life.